Hello, friends. Welcome, welcome. All right. So today let's talk about vacations, in particular, big vacations, in particular, Disney. So, a mom in our online parenting community had posed a question. Do I have to do Disney? I feel bad. I don't want to do it, but I feel like my kid needs it. It's a rite of childhood, right? In so many words. And before I tackle this topic, I do want to make it very clear that I have a personal vendetta against Disney, Chuck E. Cheese, and Great Wolf Lodge. And mostly because I'm a pain in the ass. And if you tell me some, my child needs something for his childhood to be complete, I am going to buck up against you with every cell in my body. And I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but I actually think I a flavor of PDA is pathological demand avoidance or persistent demand for autonomy. My entire life, if you tell me I have to go see a movie, I'm not gonna. When Hamilton took off, I was like, I'm not seeing it because everybody loved it, and so I'm difficult like this. I don't know why. It's just my personality. By the time I saw the end of Harry Potter, it was like 2 years later, and nobody wanted to talk about it. So I suffer for it. I don't and I've always resisted the idea that a kid has to go to Disney, that it is a rite of childhood. Now, if you love Disney, you might want to skip this episode. I am not coming down on you. These are my personal views, not my professional views. If it's your jam, go for it. But I'm going to rail against it. So you can skip this. It's okay. We can still be friends. So number one, vacations in general. So I want to remind you guys that the only thing we are owed in life, I do believe we are owed a break from our labor. I do believe we're entitled to time off from our work, our labor that produces our income, that produces our living. Yes, whatever that looks like for you. I think that is that is a human right. That is an entitlement. Yes. Vacations, going somewhere is not a human right. And it depends on your finances. It depends on your type of child. Is your child, an easy traveler? Or is daily tasks, daily living, is that hard for your child? Because vacation may be overstimulating and may be miserable for you. So a lot of things depend on a vacation. When we talk about vacations, I just don't think anybody's entitled to travel or to all inclusive or whatever. If it fits in your family and your finances, awesome. That's great. If it doesn't, it's okay. I think it's okay. When we talk about vacations, I think one of the things when you have kids is you want to decide early on, do we want a break, like a vacation, or do we want to be travelers? And I think this is a big distinction. Well, I know it's a big distinction, but it's something you might want to consider and talk over with your spouse or whoever you might be traveling with, because a traveling family is different from a vacationing family. So, a vacation typically means everybody's going to get a break. Maybe you'll do some fun things, tend to be maybe tropical, right? Or maybe snow focused if you are big skiers or snowboarders. But it's a place where you will kind of stay in one spot. You will all experience like some downtime, some fun. Whatever your activities are sort of focused on probably weather. If you go to a tropical place, water skiing, surfing, snorkeling, that kind of thing. If it's winter place, you might be doing snowboarding or skiing or something like that. Traveling is to travel for the experience of a different culture. And that tends to be just very different, but also it tends to be more work, but it's work that, like, for me, example, I enjoy. I don't love a vacation on a beach. I like it for a couple of days, but I don't like, I went to a wedding in the Dominican Republic. We had an all-inclusive resort, and I was, like, over it in, like, 2 days. So, just it's limited to me, and I enjoy traveling. I enjoy taking minimal belongings and being on the road and finding, uh, out of the way places and meeting people, and so that's what I enjoy, and there's no judgment. I don't think mine is better than anybody else's. It's just what I enjoy. I also wanted Pascal to be a good traveler. And if you follow Kelsey What Else on Instagram, she is amazing. She talks a lot about creating a traveling family, and they like to travel. They like to go experience other cultures, see architecture, see artifacts, that kind of thing. And that if you're a traveling family, you do actually miss out on a lot of things because can't usually be on sports teams, you miss birthday parties, but that was one thing that she felt really strongly about is I want my kids to be good travelers. And I felt the same way about Pascal. And so again, that is a little more work. It is not usually restful, but for me, it's restful in my soul. And I am an active person, so I don't mind being like all over the place with my kid. Now, you may not enjoy that. And so but I would spend a little time because people say, oh, I want to travel. I want to travel. If you want to travel, you have to make that happen. Yeah. It's not something that just comes by the wayside. You make it happen. And I suggest you start young because kids who travel young just are better travelers. It's really hard if you've never traveled and then you all of a sudden take your kids who have had a pretty cush life, to Italy and they are not used to walking 30,000 steps a day. You're not going to have a good time. Yeah. And we did. And when we went to Italy, we walked on average 32,000 steps a day. So just know that. Now, vacations, if you want a vacation and you want to rest, what I would also consider is mental load. Are you as mom in charge of everything? And again, I know I mention this often because I just think people don't realize it if you're not in this situation, which is there's a lot of moms who are dealing with husbands who don't even believe in mental load, don't give it any credit, are unwilling to have the conversation. And so they get the mental load. Now, if that is your situation, you want to consider your vacation very carefully because like there's all these jokes about like, oh yes, you too can go on vacation and um, do all the mothering tasks at the beach, right? So if it's just going to be a change of scenery for you, is that what you want? And I think some of this is being very honest with yourself.
I'm just going to interrupt for 1 second here, guys, because I've been signing off with put your phone down, and I want everybody to put their phone down. But we cannot do that in this day and age, right? We need our phone for various things. And so a large part of managing phones is managing what our particular energy drains are. For me, it's Instagram. For you, it might be something else. I also found that group chats and that voice messaging apps were really interrupting my day. So I've been a big proponent of the brick. You've heard me talk about it on many, many podcasts. This is a device that you tap your phone to, and you can configure various settings and various combinations of apps. And this is great. So if I'm filming, I can shut down everything. If I just need to get a lot of work done, I can shut down Instagram and the voice messaging apps, and you can really pick and choose. And I know you can do this natively on your phone, but what I love about Brick is there's no breakthrough. And when you unbrick the phone, it's immediate. There's no lag in getting messages or whatever has backlogged while you're offline. I think our phones are such a major problem, and they're only going to get worse. They keep designing the apps, the colors, everything just to hook us more. And so I really, really, really think we need to put guardrails on, and we do have to go to extraordinary measures. I do not put shit in front of you guys that I don't fully believe in. This podcast has never had advertisements that I endorse because I don't put stuff in front of you. And largely, I think there's just so much crap. I wouldn't do that to you guys. I believe in Brick 100%. It has been such a game changer for me, and you can get 10% off. I'll leave the link in the show notes if you guys are interested. All right, now back to the podcast.
So I've worked with a lot of people who are like, I can't wait to go on vacation. They do all the planning, all the scheduling, but now they also have to manage a husband who's complaining, kids who are complaining, rallying everybody. It's really challenging. So ask yourself, is this actually going to be a break? Now, if it's a family reunion and you're at a beach, I see a lot of these, and your kids are going to be occupied with cousins, and you're going to see everybody, and you're going to have a great time, and the cooking and the cleaning and all the things are going to be uh, divided amongst the big family. Awesome, that's a great break. But I just don't want you to trick yourself into thinking you're going to have a different family when you go on vacation. So, if you are in a position where your kids are at a stage where all they do is bitch and moan, your spouse doesn't help with anything, it's gonna be that way on vacation too. So in that case, I don't know, maybe an all-inclusive resort, right? that, and that, and that is what I said to this mama in the old craft cafe. I said, yeah, get an all-inclusive with a kids club. That's like your best bet, right? To actually get a break. But when we talk about like Disney, and so her big question was, is it worth it? And a bunch of people chimed in and, yes, said, "It's tiring, it's exhausting," and one great mom said, and she learned this from me, I was like, "Oh, okay, great," and I'm the other parent, right, is kid-centric vacations tend to be a bust. So when we focus the vacation on something that kids are gonna love, number 1, we go back to what we talked about over the holidays. Your kids are gonna be ungrateful as fuck. They just are. They don't have the emotional capacity yet to understand gratitude if they're probably, like, under 10 years old. They're going to appear greedy. They're going to want more. It's going to be not ending. A big thing I see with a lot of kids, I would almost say most kids, um, they gotta buy, right? The kid who cannot go to the aquarium, the children's museum, they wanna hit the gift shop. They wanna hit the gift shop. Wherever you go, is there a gift shop? They want something. They think they absolutely need to have it, but they wanna buy something. So if you go to Disney, you go to Great Wolf Lodge, you go to Chuck E. Cheese, these are corporations built on you buying. So there's gonna be tons of crap around that your kid is gonna constantly pester you with. Disney in particular is a lot of walking. It is a lot of waiting. It is a lot of overstimulation. Is that going to suit your child? And again, what we have to look at is your child doesn't change because you're giving them a magical experience. And I would venture to say that Disney isn't magical. I think we've been told it's magical, so therefore we think it's magical, and that's what our experience is. I know, I'm grumpy about Disney. I just think it's overblown. I think people go into debt. I think people go on vacations that aren't fun for them, and because we've been indoctrinated with the idea that Disney is a must-have. I don't think it is. And again, I have to apologize to all the Disney adults who are gonna get mad at me. I'm sorry. Again, we can still be friends. I don't hold it against you, don't hold it against me. But I want you to be realistic about your kid. And for some, again, it's going to be a wonderful vacation. That's great. But if you are trying to give your child something magical, just like I say this at the beginning of every summer, if you're worried about having a magical summer at Christmas, if you're worried about having a magical Christmas, you're going to have your expectations dashed because kids accept what we give them and they're not going to be grateful. They're going to want more. They're going to bug you for souvenirs. They're going to want the crap food. You're gonna be spending more, okay? So, just recognize that. But I think too, one of the things that is happening, and I discussed this in the boring parts of life, the chop wood, carry water episode, but I'm gonna harp on it again. If we are just trying to string together vacations because our regular daily life sucks ass, that is a huge red flag. If you find yourself living for your next vacation, you have to sit down and take a hard look at your life. And part of that is making the everyday magical. And I just think we're living in a haze. And one thing I've noticed, and you guys are going to be like, no, you've said it 1,000 times, is our phones are making it worse. Social media, we go online and we get this Disney version of people, and it's really dulling our everyday life, and it's making us scramble through our daily life, particularly social media. And I want you to pay attention to that. I want you to notice how much you might be out of your daily life. I've said this before, I have a quiet life right now, especially compared to you guys. I got my chickens, I got my dog, but my life is much more quiet, and I can really pay attention to my phone use, and I'm obsessed with it because I'm really coming to the conclusion that the smartphone is 100% damaging motherhood, but also it's like where everything started to go wrong. And so, but what I'm finding really interesting is my own observations of my own feelings and behavior. So, like when I brick up my phone, how do I feel? As opposed to my phone's not bricked. And I have noticed, like, absolutely in the morning, the longer I can keep it bricked, the better off I am. And it's almost like my real life comes into color again. It's a very odd thing I want you to start paying attention to, where it just feels like real life is boring. It's a slog. There's nothing good about it. But there's all this stuff. And then I get on my phone and I feel like, "Oh, here's the color, here's the magic." And I don't know, that may be just my brain. I don't think it can't be just my brain. If it's happening to me, it's gotta be happening to at least one other person. And I've just noticed it. I've noticed, wow, when I brick up my phone, especially in the morning hours and just don't even start the day with any phone use, I'm like, "Oh my god, my life is magical," and everything becomes easier. I go from chore to chore because I'm not splitting my attention. I'm not thinking about what somebody said. I'm not thinking about something I saw. I'm not thinking about comments. I'm not thinking about, um, all the posts of the recipes that I'm not making. It splits our attention, and it makes real life seem duller than it is, and real life is a slog. Real life is a slog, and I think it's really wild that we've gotten to this place where we have more time-saving devices. W Objectively, we have easier lives. Like, we have usually cars have 2 cars. I mean, 2 a household has 2 cars, right? We have kids who have their own rooms full of things. We have plenty of food. We have access to clean water. We have washers and dryers so we don't have to travel or wash things by hand. Like life has gotten easier and we still, it's like, ugh, I have to do life. I have to get up in the morning and go to work. But I think that's a sign of low grade depression or like a low grade malaise. So if you find that all you're looking forward to is your next vacation, I think it's really time to slow down, maybe do a staycation. And how can you find, take your time off of work and what can you do? Can you go on a walking tour of your own neighborhood or your downtown or go somewhere close by and discover and reawaken a discovery about what is actually beautiful about your life? And maybe it's doing some household products or like, hey, the whole family's gonna clean the living room or, and put on some music and dance around. But I really encourage you, I can't get away from this concept that the mundane and the magic, I mean, the magic and the mundane is the key to it. If we keep brushing off our daily tasks, trying to stitch together a life made of vacations, we're gonna put number one, too many expectations on that damn vacation. It's gonna be like, the expectations are so high. And I don't know, unless again, like you're going to a big gathering where your kids are occupied with other kids and having a great time, it's never a break. And I think that's what a lot of moms mistakenly think is like, oh, I'm going to get this big break. I caution you to really think about that realistically. Maybe it will be a big break for you, and that's awesome. I love it for you. Maybe it's not. And one of the things, again, going back to me and traveling, I feel like traveling keeps things kind of moving. So Pasco is always occupied with something, you know? So, yes, we were on the move more, but it was more fresh and exciting as opposed to like a beach vacation. But that's just me. And yeah, so again, it's kind of like when I talk about potty training, I always say like it's wild to me that parents think their kid's going to be different, like a different kid. Like you have a kid who argues everything and you think this kid's gonna be, like, easy to potty train, right? Like, no, you're gonna have the kid you have regardless, right? And so think of that when you're planning your vacation, you're gonna have the kid you have, you're gonna have the spouse you have, you're gonna have the life you have just with some more glitz around it. And so is that what you want? And if you are going to be bitter, if you're doing all the planning, all the organizing, all the booking, and you are expecting gratitude, I think you're going to be disappointed. And so I don't want you to be disappointed. So I think this is where we have to have a dose of reality. And I think there are a lot of fun vacations that aren't Disney. And if like I don't know, I went one time because my business partner lived in Orange County and she had a pass and a season pass. It was in her backyard. She literally went to Disney to like have coffee with her daughter after school. Like it was just always like it was there. So we went one day. I did not care for it. I thought the lines were long, the rides were eh. I liked California Adventure. That was the theme park across the way. I really liked that. Um, but I just found it was like crap food. Can I have this? Can I have that? Can I have this? And I didn't find it magical. So sue me. But I think there's so many fun things, and I think if you stay away from kid-centric and you want your kid to have a good time, maybe you go to a place where there's a river and you could do, some light river rafting or something. You want your kids to have a good time, but if we do these things that really center on the kids, I just find that they're so full of crap, and then the kid becomes it becomes you guys following the kid around just trying to make things nice, and so I'm not a fan. I went to Great Wolf Lodge one time and everybody told me how great it was. And granted, it was literally 2 days before we shut down for COVID. So COVID was out in the air, we knew it was a thing. It's like all I could see was the pool area just was like a petri dish. I was like, "It's steamy and gross." Yeah, I was not on board. And so I think these are not great vacations for a family because the parents are just doing what the kid wants, and it's not always fun. All right, guys, as always, thanks for listening. I appreciate you so, 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 so much. Put your phone down and have a beautiful day.